In From the Side is set in the world of gay rugby clubs, and two players find themselves in quite a situation after a night out. The film has been getting rave reviews and playing festivals across the globe. Alexander Lincoln plays Mark. Thank you so much for joining me from across the pond.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So let's talk a little bit about the film. I mean, it's not just connecting with fans in the UK, but you're getting, so many positive reviews from festivals across the globe.
Yeah, I mean, it's been wonderful, really. I think the most wonderful thing has been people getting in touch and just talking about how the film has resonated with them. If that's relating to the experiences that is on the screen or if it's rugby itself, it's just a really beautiful experience to be a part of a project which has meant so much to so many people.
I mean, especially the character of Mark. I mean, there's so many layers to him. Talk a little bit about getting that role, preparing for it, and connecting with Matt Carter, the co-writer and director of the film.
Sure. I mean, it was an amazing experience, really. So often you get scripts through, and they're great, and you read them, and it's all fine. But you're always looking for that sort of special character that you're going to play, which really like you can just see completely. You can see their vulnerabilities and see their complexities, as you pointed out. And with Mark, it happened, immediately. And then I read from Matt Carter and Andrew Forer, who's also one of the producers, and Adam, who's the co-writer and also producer as well. And we all just got on really well, and it was just a really, really nice experience. And then I got the job, and then I was on the side of the casting desk, which I hadn't been before, which was brilliant, because you get to meet with people, you get to like it's like a chemistry read before they even got the role, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it was a really beautiful experience throughout. Yeah.
And let's say Alexander King plays Warren. Did you when he walked in the room and came in for that audition? Were you like, there's something special about him, or tell me about the process about getting him in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, absolutely. Alexander King is a wonderful person. First off, and second off, he's an incredible actor. I mean, it's his debut acting job, and he was sort of like thrust into it to a degree, and he it's so hard to explain it. Yes, to answer your question, yes. Like as soon as he walked in, we had a joke with each other. I can't remember the joke now; it was so long ago, but we were immediately laughing. And I think like laughter and humor is such a big part of chemistry generally and how people get on. But with Ali and myself, it's just been we we can not see each other for a long time. So I mean, during COVID, we didn't see each other for ages, and then we come back to it almost immediately, and it's as if neither of us have gone anywhere. And it's beautiful to have that sort of friendship.
Especially with sports films. And I mean, I guess a couple of questions about sports films and the LGBTQ plus community is, I mean, I guess first, it's just, it could be any other club, any other rugby club, and just the intricate, friendships and relationships and, the baggage that people have coming into it. And I think that's what makes this movie stand out.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree with you. Going back to what people have said resonates with them the most has been that aspect. It's been, as much as it's an LGBTQ plus story, it's not about the trials and tribulations of being gay or being bi or whatever. It is purely the camaraderie that comes with being part of a team, and the family aspect to that comes into it. I mean, you see each other when you're at the most tired, at your most vulnerable, I suppose, and like in that aggression as well. And it just sort of transcends any amount of sexuality. It is just about these people in this situation.
But let's talk a little bit about Warren and Mark, because there's a night that I think so many people can relate to, whether you're tempted by somebody and either do something or don't do something. But I think everybody has been, in that similar situation. So I think that's why everybody's rooting for either, Mark or Warren or both or none.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. I think that that initial, like, the club scene where they sort of meet and you just get that initial like sort of electric attraction. We've all been there, we've all done it, and it's a really amazing experience to be part of, and trying to recreate that as well is so like it can be so difficult, and especially as we had like I think like 6 extras in the club scene to try and make it look like it actually had people in it.
Because especially with so many different relationships looking in so many different ways, I think everyone can identify with either Mark or Warren, but especially a lot of people in the club, the friend you take care of, the unrequited love, the teamwork, the people are the butt of the joke, all the time, that everybody could see themselves in a character in that film. And I think, I mean, especially for me, I think that was the thing. I was like, so many people can see themselves. When did you start realizing that? Was it the first festival that this film is really connecting with fans?
I mean, it's an odd one. I think the reception that the film's had has far surpassed any of our initial thoughts as to where it would go. I mean, there are so many films being made all the time that you never know where your film's going to be put, or if it's going to resonate with people, or if they're going to enjoy it. But I suppose the initial reaction was when we had our premiere in the UK, BFI Flair Festival, which was a wonderful experience, and that was sort of like, for me and a lot of the cast, that's sort of, we were like, okay, great, it's going to a really good festival. That'll be it. That's where it will go. And it's far surpassed that. So it's been incredible. But I think the people, I think, as you say, like that family aspect and people being able to see themselves within each aspect of the film and a character in themselves, because it is such like a, not quite a ragtag team, but it is to a degree. It's like a snapshot of society, I suppose. You've got like the comedy relief, you've got like the sort of like more sexual one, you've got the sort of leader, I suppose. And then within that you've got like all the emotions like lust and anger and betrayal and loyalty. And I really think that, and I think that's the same said for a lot of team sports and everything. But I think that the rugby aspect really brings that into the film, and allows the audiences to really get to know each individual character, because they're also interesting. I think a lot of the other, if there were to be a sequel, which Matt gets asked a lot about, but he's like, let me just have some downtime. But I think if there were, it'd be really interesting to follow some of the other characters in the film. Like following Henry, for example, who has a thing with Warren. I'm sorry, with Mark. Or even like the team captain, or I think there's so many characters where it would just be a really funny offset. Anyway, sorry, I've gone off on a tangent.
and Matt, if you're watching this, I do want a sequel, so I'm adding one more name to the person who wants a sequel.
Okay, perfect. I'll let him know tonight. I'm seeing him tonight.
So. As far as coming to the States, because obviously resonating back home, but coming to a different country and being able to see audiences there react to the film. I mean, you weren't in the Reeling Film Festival, which played in Chicagoland, but you were on the West Coast. Talk a little bit about being there in the audience, especially in a new place.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a shame that I haven't been able to go out to the States and see all the audiences and meet everyone, because I mean the reception's been amazing, and honestly, if anyone's watching, thank you everyone who has let the film play there. It's been a wonderful experience. But with San Diego, it was a brilliant experience, because like in Britain, I feel like audiences are far more like, people are going to disagree with me on this, but I feel like they feel far more reserved, and it's far more like that British like, and like if something's funny, they'll go, and that will be like sort of it. But American audiences, or at least the audience that I saw in Film Out in San Diego, everyone just like they had visceral reactions to it. Like there was gasps in there was people like saying like, don't do that, and it was just that far more like what's the word I'm looking for, it just felt like a far more audience experience, all encompassing. And I feel like people just really felt themselves in the film, which was a really beautiful thing to be part of. So yeah, I think that's the difference, is that American audiences do seem to really get invested in the film vocally, whereas British audiences are invested in the film, but it's far more like they'll write to us afterwards and be like, that was very good, thank you.
The other thing too, going a little bit off of a tangent on there, is that usually that reaction is for like horror movies or scary movies that you see during, that you're like, don't do this. And it's very rare to have an LGBTQ plus film where audiences get to have that experiences for themselves. So I think that's what's also making it, extremely unique and special for people.
Absolutely, I agree. I agree. Yeah, it's been honestly like a whirlwind experience, and I hope that it continues. I mean, it's going to Australia for cinemas soon, so hopefully that will like lead to some more, and then obviously the US at some point, I think.
At some point outside of festival season.
Mm.
As far as sports go with the LGBTQ plus community, sometimes, when you're a teenager, when you're growing up, you may be, shy or may be bullied or teased and may not include sports in your life because of that aspect. You may not find a rugby league or a volleyball team or something until later in life where you can find your community. Have you had a lot of fans reaching out to you on social media and just what sports mean to them, as adults, because this wasn't something they were able to do maybe as, teenagers growing up?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like quite a few of the messages that I've had have been either from people who are in an inclusive club and they're like, "Oh, that's exactly how it's like." It's been a really wonderful experience to see like our sort of stories on screen. But for those, as you say, who didn't, either in a small town they didn't have it, or it's a case of being shy, or if it was something else, it was bullying or whatever, or not feeling like you could fully get engaged in a sport that you really wanted to because of the sort of stigma. Um, is that there's a lot of people who have sort of got in touch and it's kind of like emotional, heart feeling because they're they'll say stuff like, "Oh, I really wish now I had just gone to that thing and tried it because it may not have worked out." But I think my philosophy for life now more than ever is if you want to try something, just do it. Because your later self will be like, well, at least I did, at least I took that like little leap and went towards it. And I think inclusive sports and inclusive anything. I think where you can find a community or people who are like-minded should always transcend sexuality. Like sexuality is obviously a part of all of us individually, but it doesn't have to come into aspects of us playing sports, and it shouldn't ever stop someone from playing a sport if they want to play a sport. And I think we're reaching a point where it is massively changing, which is so beneficial. But obviously, there's still stigmas to break down. And I hope, and what some messages have said as well, is that I hope that the message of this film is that the idea of sport is so integral to inclusivity, and that anyone can be a part of any club that you want to, and I hope that sort of that message gets across to people, and that they have the not necessarily the courage, but just like the sort of motivation to go, yeah, I'm going to do that. I don't care, whatever.
That's an amazing message. And then the final thing here, obviously, in the States, people, this may be the first time people might see your name and they're like, I want to see what other projects Alex has been a part of. But we have The Fence, Inland, Gods Amongst Us, and Aurora. I mean, you got so many projects in the works. Tell us a little bit about those and maybe when some of your fans in the States might be able to see them.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's a few things coming out actually at the moment. One is going to film festivals actually it's starting at London Film Festival in October, and that's called Inland. And that's it's sort of like a surreal folktale film, but it's beautifully done. And Mark Rylance and Rory Alexander star in that. And then this year, I can't. It's a difficult one because like it's sort of like in between where stuff is in post production. So like I'm not allowed to talk too much about some stuff that's coming out, but there'll be like hopefully, fingers crossed, like 3 or 4 projects come next summer that will go streaming sites and hopefully to cinemas in America. But I'm actually not allowed to say too much at the moment. But there is a TV show that I did for BBC called Everything I Know About Love, which has gone to, I think, Peacock. You guys have in the US,
Peacock, yes.
And it's on there. And that's a really beautiful 6-part series about these girls coming to London, sort of like experiencing life and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's a really exciting time. There's loads coming out. It's just like it's that weird one where In From the Side is done so well, and like it's like blown up, and then it's going to be like a wait for me as well for other stuff to sort of like come out and follow it up. But I guess that's just the nature of acting, really, isn't it? And filmmaking generally, is that you never know like when something's going to land and if it's going to get followed up by anything quickly.
Well, much success with this film and all your future projects. And thank you so much for taking, a couple of minutes of your day here to chat with me and to share this
No,
message with
thank
all
you.
your fans here in the States.
Wicked. No, it's been lovely. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for your time today.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.